Okay, so welcome to presentation time that revolves around leadership. And as mentioned to you last week, this will be our final topic for the course. The rest will be our assessment discussion. Okay, so this is what we mean by leadership. Okay, the process of leading a group and influencing that group to achieve its goal. Okay, so it is a process, okay? Or it is also considered as the ability to influence or to inspire a group of people to achieve the goal. Okay? And leader is therefore defined as someone who has the ability to influence the others and has the managerial authority. Okay, so that's a simple definition, I guess. Now, the thing is with leadership, the topic has actually evolved, right? So it is not a new topic. It is such a classic, one of the classical topics, if you like, in management. And the main issue, although it has evolved into several perspectives, the main issue about leadership revolves around the effective leader or effective leadership, if you like. So theories that have been offered, studies that have been offered, basically try to explain how to become an effective leader. Okay, now we are going to discuss these perspectives, and of course the entire concepts here are interlinked one to another, starting from the first presentation until the one that we are discussing today. Okay, so the outcome is actually, in terms of leadership, if we are effective in terms of inspiring people, what would be the outcome? Well, the outcome would be the effective change. So we can change the direction of the organization, for instance. Okay, therefore, we as a leader, we are the change agents. Okay, we make difference. We make a difference, right? Now, the other thing I'd like to highlight is basically leaders may not be our managers. Leaders may not be managers, right? But managers are required to be leaders in the team. Okay, so you need to differentiate the two concepts. Okay, therefore, in certain groups, for instance, there may be leaders who are not the managers of the group, but this person have the power to influence or to inspire the others, right? Well, if this person has got strong managerial skill, okay, we can expect that this person may be promoted to the next level. Okay, so that's basically a brief diagram. We start from the strategic direction in terms of leadership role. Okay, from there we align people towards the direction that we contribute as a leader. And it is not enough. We also need to motivate people, because remember, we need to ensure that people drive the goal, and in certain situations, we also need to bring the effective change. Okay, the reason why leadership is such a critical topic in business, both the scholars and also the business practitioners agree that leadership brings, or leadership influences the corporate culture. We discussed corporate culture in the previous topic briefly, and the corporate culture basically influences the performance of the organization. Okay, so that's a brief explanation why leadership has become such a critical topic in management. Okay. Oh, all right. So now, in terms of leading a team, what do we do? Well, we promote discussion, encourage effective listening, okay, and quality feedback. Okay, we discuss about the team's goals, plans, and of course the objectives. Establish the purpose of the team, okay, the roles of the members of the team, okay, the responsibilities and accountabilities, okay, and he, the leader, basically a person who has the influence, the ability to influence the others, whilst a team is basically a temporary or an ongoing task group of members working to identify problems, form consensus, and work to attack the problems. Okay? So, in brief, the role of the leader includes influencing individuals and teams in a positive manner, okay? Developing a vision and setting goals, supporting team members. Okay, so they are part of the roles of the leader. They are the major roles that the leader are taking. Okay. And of course, we also need to consider leadership and power. Leadership has power, basically. Okay, so we have several types of power, such as legitimate power. Okay, the expertise power, okay, the power that we gain because we are the expert in that field. Okay, reward power, okay, coercive power, and the last one is the consultative power. Okay, now there are also experts suggest that the leadership has several styles. Goldman, for instance, talk about different leadership styles. You may have heard this concept, leadership styles. Okay, so based on his study, he mentioned that there are 6 styles of leadership, starting from the coercive right through the coaching. Okay, so if you look at the leader's modus operandi, the style in the phrase underlying emotional intelligence competencies. Remember that Daniel Goldman is is one of the scholars who popularized or initiates the concepts emotional intelligence, and when the style work best, and overall impact on climate. Now, the interesting thing in here is he also discussed about the when the style works best. Okay, so that implies that the leadership style, okay, or in the broader sense, the leadership itself depends on the context that we are in. Okay, so we can't adopt one style for all situations. That's what these styles suggest. Okay, so therefore, a person who has the ability to be flexible in terms of bringing different leadership style has shown some talent in there in terms of leading the team. Okay, well, if you also refer to the war stories, for instance, you may have heard a number of generals who also apply certain styles, for instance. Okay, and in the sport industry, for instance, you can also compare the leadership style of Jose Mourinho, for instance, and Ole Solskjaer, and of course Alex Ferguson, for instance, and you can also compare that to have a bit of insights in terms of which one's more effective. Okay, all right. Now let's discuss that from the theoretical perspective. Okay, we have a number of things in here that we need to discuss. Okay, we can split them into two perspectives. The first one is the early theories, again, and after that we are going to discuss the contemporary theories. Okay, the early theories focus on the leader. Okay, the leader that includes the traits. Okay, therefore, these theories basically suggest, well, to be a leader, you have to have these qualities, that qualities, and those qualities, and so on and so forth. Okay, and the second thing is the second theme in the early theories also discuss the behavioral approach, where it shows how the leader interacted with group members. Okay, so aside from the traits, from behavioral perspective, they also suggest that, well, we also need to consider how these people behave. Although we have the, the qualities to be a leader, but if our behavior doesn't support it, then doesn't work, right? Well, you could also argue that traits and behavior should also be linked one to another, okay? All right. Now, the trait theories, okay, they suggest a number of qualities such as intelligence, charisma, decisiveness, okay, enthusiasm, strength, bravery, okay, integrity, and self-confidence. So they mentioned that studies suggest that these are the qualities that that we need to think about when it comes to building the developing the qualities of a leader. Right? From a behavioral perspective, well, it's actually it actually aims at understanding the critical behavioral determinants of leadership, so people could be trained to be leaders. Okay, remember the key points in leadership studies. Okay, revolves around becoming an effective leader. Okay, so from behavioral perspective, they suggest certain behavior that we need to. They aim at building certain behavior that we need to have to become a leader. Okay. Right, now this is still from behavioral theories. Okay, there are studies, for instance, from the University of Iowa. Okay, many years ago, they mentioned that there's some leaders who are leader-centered. Okay, or the manager, the person-centered. Okay, the other type of leader basically is labeled as a group or member-centered. Okay, so here there's a tendency that these guys are more directive in terms of behavior, whilst on the opposite they are more supportive in terms of behavior. Okay, now that leads us to what we call as the authoritarian type of leadership. And on the opposite, we have the laissez-faire, which is basically about leading letting the team to operate on themselves, right? In between, we have what we call as the participative behavior. Okay, where the leader in here is still in charge. The leader drives the communication process, facilitates the consultation process, and so on and so forth, right? And again, as we discussed before, if we relate this back to Goldman's leadership style, we also need to consider that different situations may drive us to adopt different style. Okay, so again, the purpose of this the study of this is the second one, which is basically the Ohio State University study. Well, the purpose is again to understand to identify the independent dimensions of leaders' behavior. Okay, so they did the study and they populated more than 1,000 dimensions. Okay. And out of these 1,000 dimensions, they narrow down to 2 categories, or to be more precise, they have grouped into 2 categories. Right. The first, in terms of behavioral that the leaders need to adopt. Okay, the first one is the initiating structure, where they refer to the extent to which a leader is likely to define and structure their own role and the roles of employees in the search for goal attainment. Okay, it includes behavior that attempts to organize work relationships, and also goals. Okay, so that's the initiating structure. And the second group is actually about consideration, where it refers to the extent to which the leader has job relationship characterized by mutual trust with the members. Okay, in regards to the employees' ideas and also feelings. Okay, therefore, a leader who is high in consideration actually helps employees with the personal problem, friendly and approachable, and treats all employees as equal. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a bit of ideas in terms of initiating structure and consideration. In other words, if you look at that, the initiating structure tends to be more task-oriented type of leader, of behavior, the consideration type is basically more into people type of behavior, if you like. Okay. Now, similar to that study, the University of Michigan also conduct another study where the University of Michigan also suggests that two types of orientation in terms of from behavioral perspective. The first one is the employee-oriented, and the second one is the production-oriented. So pretty much similar to that one, where the employee-oriented is basically the team members-oriented, okay, people-oriented. The other one is more the task-oriented leadership, basically. Okay, if you want to contrast those two. Okay. Now we come to the contingency theories of leadership, where in our life, we may have seen people who should be a leader, but they fail to achieve the greatness because they fail to understand the context they were working in. Okay, well, if you look at the Australian political context, you can also find a list of examples where we expect this person is so talented, but this person failed to step up to the top ladder, for instance. Okay. Therefore, the purpose of the contingency theories is basically to define leadership style and the situation. Okay, what style and situation? Remember, Goldman also suggests that in the leadership style. Right? And at times to answer the if this, then we need to do that. To do what type of contingencies? Okay, so if then contingency. Okay. All right, now let's look at the Fiedler contingency model. Okay, this model actually proposed that effective group performance depended on properly matching the leader's style and the amount of control and influence in the situation. Okay, so that's what Fiedler suggests actually. Okay, the premise in here is actually about a certain leadership style would be most effective in different types of situations. Therefore, we need to define the leadership styles and then identify the appropriate combination of style and situation. So that's the premise that Fiedler suggests. Okay, so therefore, the study actually, Fiedler's study actually revolves around least preferred coworker, okay, or LPC questionnaire. Okay, what kind of coworker that you do not prefer to work with? Okay, in a certain situation. So that's the type of questionnaire that he develops to understand the situation and style matching. Okay, and the next contingency theory is actually developed by Hersey and Blanchard, or they call it as the SLT, or situational leadership theory. Okay. These theories actually focuses on the leader effectiveness and followers readiness. Okay, so there are two dimensions that they suggest. The first dimension is readiness, and the other one is the effectiveness of the leader. Okay, so readiness in here is to the extent to which people have the ability and willingness to accomplish a specific task. Right, so that's basically about the members' readiness. Okay, and the SLT theory views the leader-follower relationship as like that of parent and child. So kind of, the leader and the follower need to match one to another. Okay. All right. Now let's look at the 4 leadership style based on the task relationship behaviors. Okay. This is from the leader's perspective, where there are 4 types of styles in here. The first one is telling, okay, high task, low relationship, okay, type of style. Right? This is where the leader defines roles and tells people what, how, when, and where to do various tasks. Okay. The second one is selling, high task and high relationship, okay, between the leader and the follower. Okay, this is where the leader provides both directive and supportive behavior. Okay, so they label it, the SLT theories label it as selling. Okay, and the next one is participating, where it is actually about low tasks and high relationship. Okay, the leader and followers share in decision making, where the leader facilitates and takes the role as the communicator. Okay, And the last one is delegating, low task, low relationship, okay, where the leader provides little direction or support, okay. Now, again, there is no silver bullets. As we discussed in presentation one, this is social theory. We also need to look at the context. If we go back to the institutional theory as well, okay. So again, we can't say that the selling should be the one that we adopt. Well, hang on a second. We need to also, based on these theory, we also need to look at the context, the situation. And Hirsch and Blanchard suggest that the readiness of the employees, the readiness of the followers need to be reviewed as well. Okay. Now there are 4 stages of readiness. Okay. So if you look at that, R1 to R4, the R1 basically revolves around people are both unable and unwilling to take responsibility for doing something. Okay. So followers are competent or confident. Okay. So we have 2 issues in here. In readiness 1, where the followers have the skills issue and also the motivation issue. Okay, and R2 basically is about people who are unable but willing to do the necessary job tasks. Okay, so this group basically is motivated, but they have skill issue. Okay, remember we need both skills and motivation when it comes to managing the followers, okay, or managing our team members, right? And the third one is actually about people who are able but unwilling to do what the leader wants, or this is actually about the motivation issue, okay? And the last one is actually about people who are both able and willing to do what is asked of them. Okay, so the other one is the last one, which is basically a group of followers or employees who have both skills and also motivation. Okay. All right. Now, still the contingency theory. We have the leader participation model, and in this theory, they suggest 12 contingency variables. Okay, so you can name the importance of the decision, okay, importance of obtaining followers, and so on and so forth. In total, there are 12 contingency variables, okay? Now, that leader participation model that includes the 12 contingency variables actually help us to understand that the relationship between us, okay, as the leader and the participants basically depend on these variables, okay? How important is the decision? How important is obtaining the follower commitment to the decision, okay, when it comes to decision, for instance, okay, and so on and so forth, okay. And this one here is the continuation of the previous one that shows the 12 contingency variables, okay. And we also have what we call as the path goal theory, where we have several leadership behaviors, such as the directive leader, where they let the subordinates know what's expected of them, schedules work to be done, and gives the specific guidance on how to accomplish tasks, for instance, okay? And the next one, supportive leader, shows concern for the needs of the followers and is friendly, okay? And participative leader consults with this type of leader, actually consults group member and uses their suggestions before making a decision. Okay. And the next one is achievement-oriented leader, where it sets its challenging goals and expects followers to perform at their highest level. Okay. Well, you may also argue that when we map someone, let's say you, for instance, you may have bit of he, bit of that, bit of that. Okay. So the key point is for you to understand which one that becomes the major behavior that you actually perform, okay? And now let's look at the contemporary theories, okay? We have a few things in here. The transactional leaders, for instance, these leaders basically lead primarily by using social exchanges or transactions, so they do transaction with the followers. Okay, you do this, and of course I'll take a note, and of course you'll be rewarded if you are consistent with that. I can endorse you to be promoted, for instance. Okay. And transformational leader, for instance, stimulate and inspire followers to achieve extraordinary outcomes. Okay, remember again, theories, both the previous ones that we discussed and the current ones that we discussed, basically revolve around understanding how we can build, how we can develop an effective leader. Okay, and the next one is charismatic leaders. Okay, enthusiastic, self-confident leader, okay, whose personality and actions influence people to behave in certain ways. Okay, so you may find certain people in the organization who are quite strong, charismatic. Okay, so whatever they mention may become the jargon of the entire organization. Okay, and the last one is the visionary leadership. Okay, where these guys basically have the ability to create and articulate a realistic, credible, and attractive vision of the future that improves upon the present situation. So these guys have the vision. Okay, this is where we need to go to. This is this area that we need to address. This is the thing that we need to bring. Okay, in the for the future of our organization. Okay, this is where we are at. Therefore, we need to be that why. Okay. I think we also need to look at another types of theory, theory X and theory Y, where the manager of theory X basically has the mindset that employees are lazy, lack ambition, and want to avoid responsibility, so they work only around the clock, 9 to 5, that's it. They work only because they have to, and do as little as possible for their pay. Okay, therefore, what these managers do, or these leaders do, if you like, they implement tight control. Okay, okay, yeah, feel free. You come at 5 and you go at 5. You come at 9 and you go at 5. That's fine. But this is your objectives I'm going to measure against when it comes to performance appraisal, for instance. Okay. And the next one is the theory Y. Work is as natural as rest and play. So the leaders who adopt this theory basically believe that we work because it's natural. It is our natural thing that we need to do. Okay, like we rest, we play, we eat. Okay, therefore we want to do well in doing those things. Okay, we want to rest well, we want to play well, we want to sleep well. Okay, therefore we also want to work well. Okay, so leaders in this that adopt this theory basically believe that people want to do their jobs well, and that they see challenge and responsibility when they are committed to the overall objectives of their team and organization. Okay. Right, now this is briefly, since we talk about the leadership, and definitely we need to think about coaching, okay, part of our role as a leader. And one of the approaches that people suggest is the GROW approach, where we look at the goal. So firstly, we consult the coachee to establish the existing performance. Here, the purpose is to understand the goal of the coachee, and also the gaps, okay, of the coachee, okay, and the actual performance. Okay, that leads us to the reality, actually, where we look at the gap between the goal and also the current performance or actual performance, and we find out what the reasons are. We find out the root causes of the gaps. Okay, then we discuss about the options. Okay, discuss the options, how we can close the gaps, and in here we develop what we call as the active listening. Okay. And after that, we agree on what the coaching needs to improve, okay, so that they can bring up their performance. Okay? Right, so a bit of template, if you like, to help with the GROW process. Okay, so here, for instance, when it comes to goal, we discuss about the KPIs, what is the target here, Okay, what is the performance goal, and how do you think you are doing with this goal, achieving this goal? And you look at the facts. Okay, and then you discuss the options and develop the will. Okay, what will be done? Okay, agreements basically. Okay. The next one is mentoring, which is basically about the it refers to an experienced expert, the mentor. Okay, supporting the development of a less expert employee. And the mentor mentoring may take the form of buddying, okay, in which a mentor shadows a mentee on the job, or sometimes the case of higher level professional mentoring, okay, off the job in mentoring or managerial skills development discussions. Okay. All right, so as a summary, look, we've discussed a number of concepts, right, in terms of leadership. And the concept leadership itself is not a new concept, as we all know that, and it has evolved in many years. And the studies also have taken into consideration several approaches, such as the traits approach, the behavior approach, the contingency, the context, situation approach, where we need to look at the certain context of the leadership and the style of the leadership, okay, for instance. And again, regardless of different approaches, all concepts aim at explaining the effective leadership, so we can replicate the results. Okay, we can replicate it to as a model for our situation. Okay, and that's basically our topic. The leadership topic. And if you need help, send me an email, and I'm expecting that in the next sessions we are going to focus on assessment discussions. Okay, right. And there are some references. Okay, and see you later.